This will be the last episode of Survival Dispatch News on the main Survival Dispatch YouTube channel. We're breaking SDN off on its own with its own channel, and we'll start publishing videos over there on Monday. If you could click the link in the description below and subscribe to our new channel for SDN, we would appreciate it very much. On today's episode of Survival Dispatch News, I'm joined by my good friend and esteemed attorney, Todd Callender, and America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani. The topic of discussion is the lawfare tactics that the currently installed administration is using against its rivals. This is stuff you would only expect to see from third world banana republics. So let's jump right in with Todd and Mayor Rudy.
I'm blown away that they indict you and other notable people, but you as a lawyer, you're an advocate, and they didn't even serve the documents, the crimes that they alleged. Is that right?
Well, yeah, in many cases, it depends on the case. If we're talking about the one that resulted in the $145 million judgment, it's quite extraordinary because it may be the only $145 million judgment without a trial. I never had a trial on the merits. It was determined that I owed that amount of money to two people that I had definitive proof were crooked and were fixing the election. I have the tapes right here if you want to look at it.
Fabulous.
Although they have edited them illegally. I'll explain that to you also, both in Georgia and in the New York Bar Association. But in any event, they hired a law firm. I hesitate to say the name because so many of these law firms, I think Kelly Dry, and they're a multi-billion-dollar New York law firm who I've litigated with and beaten. And but the guy doing it was doing it for a very special reason. He's a close friend of Hunter Biden.
Oh,
he
of course he is.
He took up a meaningless small defamation case that, given the net worth of the individuals involved, couldn't have been worth more than, oh my goodness, even with punitive damages, 100,000, 200,000. He took it up and he tried it like an antitrust case, meaning he made me pay before I ever got there with thousands and thousands of meaningless discovery requests. Most of it intended to get evidence on Donald Trump.
Wow.
Or others that they could persecute, Boris Epstein, or who they just indicted, or the wonderful Christina Bobb, who, my goodness, should be given a medal. So they're sending me documents, not only for my own documents, which are very substantial, but basically to sort of try to make me into what I've called, because I, prosecuted real criminals,
yes,
a rat against innocent people.
That's it.
I'm constantly objecting that this is irrelevant discovery. I mean, even in the big civil cases I handled, I would get judges to cut it down. And I can't figure out why this judge not only isn't cutting it down, she's adding to it. Then I realized who the judge was. The judge was the judge in the District of Columbia who is bloodthirsty for January 6th people. She was the chief who called the meeting with the other judges to tell them that they weren't giving enough time to the innocent people of January 6th, or at least the people who at most committed trespass, which when I was a prosecutor, we didn't have time to deal with. So it was Judge, I kind of forget her name, Barrett or Bobbitt or something like that. But she was the chief judge for a long time. And she did something that, having been a law clerk to a chief judge, I would say should get you impeached, interfering in the sentences of other judges and telling them, put those people in jail for more time because I don't know what they were.
That's shocking.
They were invited into the Capitol for a tour, basically. But albeit, in my case, I finally realized I'm being railroaded. I'm not, this isn't
right.
It hasn't the slightest. And then I turned over thousands of documents. I couldn't turn over some, believe it or not, because I didn't have them. The FBI had them. The FBI wouldn't give them back to me because of her. So I got penalized for that. Then when I got them back, the FBI literally destroyed anywhere from a third to a quarter a third to a half of my digital material.
Holy
I don't
cow.
know. It probably contains exculpatory information. And so therefore, I was never able to produce it. I got blamed for that. And then in the middle of all it, she wanted my divorce records. I couldn't figure out for the life of me. I mean, I am a hell of a lot better lawyer than she was. She was a prosecutor in the inferior U.S. Attorney's Office, not the superior U.S. Attorney's Office. And I was the U.S. Attorney in the superior U.S. Attorney's Office, the one that won all its cases, rather than the one where John Gotti won so many times it made you laugh. So she sort of also had a basic hatred for me, but mostly because she hated Trump. And when I finally appeared before her, I felt like I was looking at a nice version of Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I couldn't produce my divorce records. My lawyer argued, well, you don't get divorce records like that in a case like this, particularly since you're a bunch of leaking scum, because that's what they did. They leaked everything, right? They were worse than my divorce lawyers, I mean, on the other side. And they weren't really there to go after me. They were being paid millions to go after me as a way of getting to Trump or possibly. So
that's important, Rudy, is they were paid millions for lawfare. That's the bottom line here, right?
Remote meetings have quite a few benefits. Data security isn't one of them. Until now. Presenting CloutHub Meets. A safe, simple, and secure meeting platform that puts you in complete control of your data. With HIPAA-compliant paid and free plans, cheaper than Zoom, there are no apps to install, no saved data, and no big brother tracking your every move. Stop worrying if the services you use are using you, and sign up for CloutHub Meets today at clouthubmeets.com.
I can only guess who, but I have a pretty good guess, and I haven't gotten it yet 100%. But when I do, I'll certainly put it out. You can probably guess who paid for it. But this is basically major Wall Street law firm litigation in a case in which I said that they counted ballots after they excluded people in Atlanta, and also passed around a drive, a small drive that looked like the kind of drive that you used to rig a voting machine. The voting machines that allege that you could not be accessed by the internet.
Yeah, those ones.
Yeah, but they have a manual that I found, which I put in evidence in other cases, that shows you how to do it.
Yep.
I've had people show me how to do it. So that's a complete bunch of nonsense. But what I said was, and if you know defamation, you realize the case should have just been thrown out. I said I saw them double, triple, and quadruple counting, and you can too on the videos. And I saw them pass what looked to me like a drive. Now, that's an opinion, my friend. Right. It's an opinion. It's actually a quintessential opinion, because I'm telling you what to go look at to find out if you think I'm a liar. You get a chance. You get a chance to look at what I look at, and you can say, "Jesus, that Giuliani can't read."
Well, this is the point, isn't it? You put into evidence. You made an allegation based on a good faith, reasonable belief, which is the standard we're held to as lawyers.
Yeah.
That's the point.
And I put out the raw material so you could judge it, so I didn't defame you. I used to do defamation cases for the Wall Street Journal. Opinion is not defamation, because opinion gives you a chance. I can say, I saw Roger Smith shoot a gun, look at the picture. Or I can say, look at Alec Baldwin shooting that gun. I think he shot the gun. I don't think the gun shot itself. Well, I mean, you can look at it and say, you think the gun shot itself, right?
That's exactly right. Well, and so when we look at this from a third-party perspective, we're not in the middle of the heat of battle as you are. It looks a lot like abuse of process and malicious prosecution. And actually, Chris had asked that question. He's like, "Holy cow, $148 million! How does one overcome that?" Sorry, Chris, is that what you wanted to ask?
Well, first and foremost, nice to meet you, Mayor.
Nice to meet you too, Chris.
So what I mentioned to Todd earlier was our audience would like to know what the status is of this egregious judgment, which is approaching 150 million. I'm assuming that you have it on appeal and it's working
Yes,
its way
sir.
through the system.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, it required me to go into bankruptcy because they made it clear that we're going to try to. I have two homes, and I would say that. I mean, I'm more than happy to tell you. Before that judgment, my net worth probably would be conservatively judged at about 7 million, and probably if you did a wild with possibilities of books and stuff, maybe 14, 15 million. My cash position rather small because I've been excluded from all work. My law firm has been taken away from me. I was making $4 million a year in my law firm.
Wow.
I've made as much as 70 or 80 million dollars over my lifetime in speeches, paid for all over the world. So I was what I would consider in this day and age, upper middle class, pretty solid guy with a few cash problems because he's getting old. Not that he can't work, but they won't let him work. Right?
Dear Lord.
Meanwhile, I get hit with $145 million judgment, and my lawyer says to me, they're going to try to immediately execute this judgment. I said, Joe, they can't do that. We got to appeal it. She said, don't you remember your judge? We're like in Nazi Germany, my friend. We're not in District Court. So she immediately has them starting to try to take I have a condo in Florida, and I have a co-op in New York. They're both worth reasonable amounts of money. They're not Mar-a-Lago, but they're worth reasonable. And they were going after both. They had already started a process to put liens on them, and they wanted to begin the process of taking them away from me. And I said, we can beat that. They said, well, there's only one safe way to beat it. And you are technically in bankruptcy. I mean, you're not worth 100. You might think you're rich, pal, but you're not worth 145 million. I said, you know something? I know I'm not. So I had to file for bankruptcy, which, among other things, for me, after many, many years of being kind of successful in everything I did, it was humiliating, but I did it because I had to protect myself and my family. They'll get nothing, according to these people. They're still threatening to go through the bankruptcy court. They wouldn't. I had to ask for permission to appeal the case to get to your question. So we first made a motion for a new trial, pro forma, really, because we don't have a judge. We have a judge that wouldn't allow me to testify. Not only did she give me a trial on liability, she wouldn't let me testify on damages. She told me if I testified and told the same story I was telling, she'd hold me in contempt, which was a signal, because she held a lot of people, because she's a bloodthirsty judge, she'd have put me in jail, which she was done like they did with my friend Peter.
Rudy, let me just add to your calculus real quick on this, because it's really important. We filed the writ quo warranto with the U.S. Attorney because the AG's oath of office was defective. It turns out the U.S. Attorney's was too. This led us to the District Court in Washington, D.C., where we would have to file this because the two chief law enforcement officers wouldn't do anything. And Lisa did a FOIA request on all of the judges in the D.C. District Court. Out of all of them, one has a valid oath of office. What that means is, under 5 U.S.C. 3331 and 3332, everything they do is void ab initio. They don't have any authority whatsoever, is the governing law. And so what I'm saying to you is it would be worthwhile to figure out who this judge is and let us see what her oath of office looks like and whether she has the authority to even be sitting in that seat.
My goodness, I will be more than happy to have my lawyer, there are two of them, Bob Costello and Joe Sibley, both very good.
Beautiful.
Both very, very good, honest lawyers and good lawyers. I'll have them contact you and see if.
Please do.
We have found also a lot of things about them that haven't been, like I told you. They provided me in my. This is a little off the topic, but it's the same allegation. One of the things my disbarment is based on is this lawsuit. So the prosecutor for New York, the Bar Association prosecutor, which you might equate to the kind of people that are involved in Donald Trump's trials in New York. They all come out of the same Democratic crooked machine. And it really is embarrassing to use the word lawyer for them. They're political hacks. and have been since Boss Tweed. And nobody knows it better than me because nobody's prosecuted more than me. And there's probably nobody they hate more than me because I've been saying this for 30 years.
Congratulations.
Okay, so I wanted to change. So the reality is they send me all the tapes of the counting of the ballots at the arena after crooked Democrats closed down the counting and excluded the entire public in complete violation of Georgia law, which disqualifies all ballots counted, by the way.
All of them.
But you didn't bother to do it because the governor of Georgia would never give us the ballots. But of course, he thinks we don't know what he's about, but I know everything that he's about.
On that note, I think Lisa just told me that his oath of office was also very strange. We'll have a look at that with your lawyers, and send you a copy of the writ as well. You may find it very useful. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, Rudy, this is about stringing you up, right? If they could, they would hang you for the audacity of questioning whether President Trump actually had the election stolen from him. That's the bottom line, right?
I am an example of what President Trump has said numerous times, and people will say sometimes, well, maybe he just says it. But man, those of us involved in it, and it's probably a couple hundred, will tell you we understand exactly what he's saying. They're not after me, he would say. Yeah. They're after you. Well, I'm one of the you.
Yes.
Christina Bobb is one of the you. Steve Bannon is one of the you. Peter Navarro. And then we got people, I got to tell you, in the case in Atlanta with the crooked DA in Atlanta, I've got 19 co-defendants in a RICO case. I prosecuted more RICO cases than they ever. I don't know.
You're the father of RICO.
I don't know 15 of them. I never met them. And one of them, a main defendant, Sidney Powell, says she never talked to me about the case. So I'm trying to figure out how you can have a conspiracy without talking. What do we send? Smoke signals?
By the way, wasn't she just acquitted or something had happened where I think.
But, they got all excited. They said she was going to cooperate. Even my lawyers got nervous. Because sometimes even your lawyers, some of them, they don't believe you're actually innocent because they don't have a lot of innocent people. They say, well, what's she going to say? What's she going to do? I said, if she tells the truth, we'll get out of the case.
Yeah, right.
She actually said, oh, Giuliani, I never talked to him about the case.
The truth is an absolute defense. That's beautiful. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say she took a plea deal to a very diminished charge to kind of get the monkey off her back, but she didn't incriminate anybody in the process.
But she certainly didn't hurt me. In fact,
right.
If I ever have to go to trial, she'd be my main witness to get out of that. I mean, there is other parts to the conspiracy, but that's the main one, and I'm kind of out of it.
Well, you know what I'm sitting here thinking, Rudy, is that when you are out of it, there are legal processes. I'd be filing grievances in the bars because prosecutors are not allowed to bring cases that they don't have a good faith, reasonable belief that happened, number one, or are unsupported by the law. You are an attorney general. You know that better than anybody. But I mean, go on the offensive, man. I'd start grieving them and at least get it out there because what they've done to you is so it's abusive. This is the quintessential abuse of process kind of a case, and it just makes me sick. Did I understand correctly? In the case of Arizona, you're amongst 18 indicted defendants, and they haven't even provided you the indictment? You don't know what you're indicted for?
I'm guessing from a few fairly general. There even I haven't even seen a good newspaper article on it. At least in New York, I get the New York Times that tells me what I'm accused of. Because they get a month from the DA's office before it comes out. And remember, in Georgia, I was indicted along with President Trump and others, but Fannie made a little mistake. She never got the grand jury to vote the indictment. So I got that indictment before I got indicted. But she failed to get. Now, when I used to be a prosecutor, that led to the dismissal.
Yes.
Of an indictment. It's just not drafted at all, but she just brought him in, and that afternoon, they rubber stamped the indictment. Now, we all know that grand juries are, the plaything of the prosecutor. But when you make it obvious, honest judges dismiss the case.
That's right.
And this case
honest judges
be gone to start with right from the beginning on procedural irregularities. The rest of it, I can't even tell you how ridiculous a RICO case it is, because
Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point that what we're coming to find, and this is the allegation that we've been making, which is that when you find that not a single member of the existing cabinet has a valid oath of office, the guy Alejandro Mayorkas, who welded open the border gates, couldn't be bothered to take his oath of office. The point of which is that they are actors. They are actors fulfilling a role, and they are serving a purpose.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you're really surprised. Never took an oath of office.
No, he just didn't bother. Janet Yellen, who's the Secretary of Treasury and talking about defaulting on the national debt, didn't bother her oath of office. Pete Buttigieg couldn't be bothered to take his oath of office. Kamala Harris, defective oath of office. The entire cabinet either have missing or defective oaths of office, as is required by federal statute. The way we came to find this is I had sued the DOD, and we couldn't believe that the Secretary of Defense was fragging his own troops. Right? We put the evidence in a temporary restraining order. It was abundantly clear when you're putting antifreeze in the shots and telling your troops, all 1.4 million, to take them, there's a problem. So we FOIA'd his oath of office and his registration under FARA. Took him 9 months to produce a defective oath of office. That started us on the path. Not one member of the cabinet has an oath of office that complies with the law. In the case of those 3 individuals, they just didn't bother to do it at all. Jack Smith, the Department of Justice, came to us and said, yes, in our FOIA request, it's true, these 2 oaths of office we have for him are defective. We should probably get him to do one that is valid. Jack Smith, no valid oath of office. He has no business prosecuting anybody. They are actors, and this is what we're coming to find, is our government is a facade. It's all it is, and they're doing anything and everything they can to stay in power, and you're a threat, right? We're a threat. We are all a threat, so what do? They abuse the legal process, and they can't just come out and kill us. Why? Because the rest of the people might find out. But now the public is aware, and people are waking up. This is a different time, sir. We're in the process of taking our planet back, and I think that's what we're going to see this fall. And I know Chris is itching to ask you this. I want you to get your crystal ball out. What happens this fall?
What happens this fall, by all logical ability to predict, is that Biden is rejected very substantially by the American people, and Trump is elected. I say it that way because I've never seen numbers, and I've been involved both my own and in about 5 presidential campaigns. I've never seen numbers like this.
Yeah,
I can go back and tell you about presidential campaigns going back to Kennedy and Johnson. I've never seen numbers like this. And not just the numbers. I mean, he is the most unpopular president in my lifetime of 79 years. But it's not just he's the most unpopular. It's the issues. He's the most unpopular on the core issues that people always vote on.
Yes.
The economy, safety. Right. I mean, and it stands to reason. Trump turned over to him a world at peace, largely, right?
Yes.
Or about as at peace as we've had it in a long time. He's given us a world at war more than we can remember. I don't know. You may have to go back to, well, certainly Vietnam, but maybe a world war, because a lot of people are worried we're going to have a world war. We can't figure out, none of us can figure out the strategy.
I can tell you the strategy. The strategy is to eliminate humanity. They are, in 1994, the Cairo Population Accords, our governments, all of them agreed to reduce the world's population by 7 billion people, and we are in the midst of that. And that's what our lawsuit was about, was stopping the carnage.
Can I bring to your attention something that is completely suppressed? And I'm happy to send you the video, and you can play it to your heart's content. Bill Maher, several days ago, was talking about abortion. And in it, he said that he understands that somebody was criticizing pro-lifers. And it almost sounded good at first. He said, I understand that pro-lifers are not crazy at all. They think that abortion is murder. He said, I kind of think it is too.
Wow.
But I'm okay with it.
Oh, dear Lord.
Because there are too many people.
Yeah.
And I don't know them anyway. The last part of the quote is 100% accurate, and I'll send it to you.
Lord.
Now, that has been suppressed, including by Newsmax, Fox. It's been suppressed by the so-called conservative media. That's one of the most extraordinary statements made by any figure. People have been fired for, sneezing the wrong way on television. They sneeze to the right and you get fired. This guy talked about murdering. Murder's okay. I've never heard anybody actually say that.
Oh,
murder.
I have.
With murder, except the mafia killers that I put in jail.
We've heard people from the United Nations, officials, actually saying those same things, and that they look at abortion as something that should happen up to 2 years post-birth. They are absolute eugenicists, and the answer to your question is these same gangsters that are in charge want the world to end. They want the end of humanity. We found in the shots that they have genetically modified everybody. Believe it or not, there's existing U.S. Supreme Court case law that says if you've been genetically modified, you now belong to the patent holders. And that's what they want, to kill or transform into slave chattel property 7 billion people. And we have all the documents that prove this. We've been actually saying this now for 3 or 4 years, and it actually went into evidence in a federal case. So look, this is depopulation. If they get a nuclear war, then they're happy. That's what they want, the end of humanity. And the problem, sir, is you're in the way. Donald Trump is in the way.
I know I'm just one. Yeah.
Oh, it takes one. It takes just one. In fact, Melissa is one of our whistleblower clients of my law firm. She's a she's a Pfizer quality assurance auditor who had, her testimony is, we took in unknown substance in plastic bags, put them in a bottle called Comirnaty, and that's what went out the factory. So you're talking about just takes one. It took one Melissa McAtee as a whistleblower, and she stopped the entire Pfizer dilemma. Melissa, have you got some questions, I imagine?
Yes, we do.
Could I ask a question first? Because there are two things I've been working on, and you, I think, solved it for me.
You said you had something that you wanted us to provide, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll start it. I really would like to ask you if you could send me some samples or whatever you can on population control, because since the time I've heard Maher's statement, I've been, I'd say, obsessed with it in the sense that nobody covers it. It seems to me to be on either side of the issue, an extraordinary statement. I'm okay with murder. Those are the people I used to put in jail for life. I'm okay with murder people. But second, it seems to fit in now. It isn't just a wild statement. It fits into a movement, a philosophy of population control, eugenics. I found some on that, but not a lot. And if you can
there is a population division.
And then secondly, the people who are not sworn in properly. I probably deal with a lot of them, not just for me. And although I can't practice law anymore, I got lots of friends who were in trouble. And we might be able to help a lot of those friends who I think you would find very worthy people.
I'm a lawyer. I'm happy to jump in. This is the kind of stuff we do.
My email, and we'll figure out how we can communicate. And whatever you want from me, you got, I tell you.
Good. Likewise, sir. Likewise. And by the way, I mean, the UN, after 1994, they had the Cairo Population Accords. They agreed that the world was overpopulated. It became official policy of the United States of America to depopulate. We have all of those documents. It also was started off by Kissinger, 1974 memo, was classified. But we have it all, and we'll share it with you. And in our audience, there's about 500,000 people show up to this thing. They're all familiar with this, so what it is that you're doing will be welcome to them. And count us in. We're allies. We're the reality, sir, is we're in the fight for the survival of our species. And this is the case that we brought against the DOD because they were the enforcement arm, or supposed to be the enforcement arm of Tedros Adhanom. We are in medical martial law at this very moment in time. 6 magic words are uttered: public health emergency of international concern. All human rights, all constitutional rights are suspended. We've documented this complete throughout, and that's what they're using. Title 42, the border's open. Why? Because we're in a public health emergency. The CDC is in control. They can do anything they want. No human rights, no constitutional rights. They've given themselves the authority to eradicate 7 billion people in every country. I live outside the United States. All of the countries are the same. And what they've done is said, we won't hold each other responsible if you kill your own people. That's the nature of the law today.
Wow.
Yes. Mayor Rudy, we are a well of information on this. We have an excellent team that does research, deep research and FOIA requests on all of this stuff. So we can gladly make sure all of that's linked below and sent directly to you so that you have access to it. And I just want to say, as a Pfizer whistleblower that was a quality auditor, feel free to ask me anything as well. I can certainly prove fraud against to the government that Pfizer lied directly to Donald Trump in order to get Operation Warp Speed commenced. So I'm your gal for that. And then our very own Chris Heaven had a question directly for you, Mayor Rudy.
Actually, I had a few questions, but I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll only ask one question. But I'll preface it by saying that Todd and I helped Tom Holman raise a substantial amount of money for his Border 911 group, which is traveling across the country and educating people on what's really happening at the southern border. So we got to go to Mar-a-Lago for the Border 911 Gala. I have never seen so many NYPD outside of New York City. It was it was proof that Florida starts at Jacksonville and ends at St. Augustine, and everything south there is an extension of New York, because there was more New Yorkers than anything else there. Here's my question for you, Rudy. What happens when there is irrefutable evidence that is accepted by the mainstream media showing that the 2020 election was stolen? What are the ramifications of that, in your opinion?
I don't think it's going to happen before the 2024 election, because that would determine in many ways the 2024 election. So they'll do what they did with, suppose magically a definitive report were filed that proved what I know and what you know is that in 2020 Trump won and Biden lost. They would suppress it until, and we'd have a chance maybe of getting it after 2024, after we win. Otherwise, it may be lost to history. And that's why winning in 2024 is so important. We need to seize the agencies of power that are being used like they were in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia right now. I mean, people say to me, well, why can't we do this and why can't we do that? And I say to them, look, nobody used the FBI more effectively than I did, nor did the FBI love anyone more than me. I actually can prove that to you. I was elected their favorite prosecutor of the 20th century. I have a G-Man of the Year award with a big statue. They were my clients when I was the retired ones. So they still are the retired. Well, they're not my clients anymore, but they're still my best friends. So we need those agencies back.
That's right.
In order to fix this. And that's why 2024, this is not a campaign commercial, it's just a reality. 2024 to me is like we get a chance to take our country back as the America we know and love and want to pass on to our children, or we become some combination of Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, present China, Venezuela, added on with all of the sexual perversions that now come along with it.
That's the plan. That's absolutely the plan. You've outlaid it exactly. We have their plan. And I want to offer to you that I sit on the board of the Stand Up America Foundation. That's 300 retired general officers led by General Paul Vallely and Thomas McInerney. And good friends of ours. In fact, General McInerney was part of the architect behind my lawsuit against the DOD, eventually broke their back. The point of which is they have all said we're ready to don our uniforms and walk back into the Pentagon when Mr. Trump is back in office, or even before if we're called into action or duty. There is actually support for that in the law, that they could be activated any moment in time. They're on ready reserve until they die. My point in telling you that is they are ready to go back and resume the operations of the military as it should be done. And I guarantee you, we've got a lot of law enforcement friends, just like you do here, a lot of whistleblowers. No. Same thing. They're ready to step back in. They'll come out of retirement. All they want is leadership that is honest and trustworthy. And I think you provide that, and I think Mr. Trump will provide that too.
Well, thank you. And, of course, it'll be hard to do, but not as hard as making sure we win the election. If you tell me we win 24, I'll go so far as to guarantee you that within 3 years, we're not going to have it all straightened out. You never have it all straight, not really. But we'll have this country back probably operating better than it did even under Trump the first time. Wow. Because he's been my friend for 35, 40 years. Some people know him better than me, not too many.
I imagine.
It's done. He doesn't waste time.
No, he doesn't.
He's also been educated. This is and for the good. This is a different and better Donald Trump than we elected in 2016, because he was a good man. He was a naive man. He didn't. Any good man couldn't possibly believe what you have uncovered until they see it and you shove it in their face. Only scoundrels would assume something like that. Now,
we have it.
I told them how bad it was, right? I used to feel like, God, gee, I was really smart. I'd say, I could call him Donald, and I say, Donald, when you get in there, boy, you're going to see how terrible it is. What I was telling him was Mickey Mouse compared to what really was there. I was shocked. I was the third-ranking official in the Reagan Justice Department during the Cold War. I helped to begin Pfizer. I've done more Pfizer warrants than Comey probably perjured himself on.
When you come to understand that government is an owned apparatus, all governments are, and that the end goal is by December 2029 to have no more than 1 billion people on this planet. That's the mission. Then once you get that in your head, you can understand why it is the governments have been abused, why they've put people into those key positions, district attorneys, all the way up, right? Now you understand why it is. They're there for a purpose, and that purpose is a war on humanity. First we had the war on drugs, then the war on the terror. Now it's a war on viruses, and we are the virus. And once you understand that, it all unfolds. So look, we have all of this. We've put a lot of it into evidence already. So it'll be a joy to provide that to you. We're here to support you in any way that we can.
And I'm here to work with you, and I'm really looking forward to it. As I'm talking to you, there are so many things I think we can further together through what you have, and then through my shows, through ABC, America's Mayor Live, Uncovering the Truth with Dr. Maria, who is a real expert on. She had Wuhan figured out before Wuhan had it figured out. Wow! Before day one, she told me what was going to happen.
Holy cow! Well, there you go. Clairvoyants are welcome, and I want to let you know you're on the most free platform there is. This is Clout Hub.
She ran a hospital, and she began seeing it.
Yes.
She began seeing what they were preparing and what they were doing.
Oh.
And started China, and started warning me about something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, when it happened, she was the best prepared hospital in the Northeast, and has gotten awards for that they haven't yet taken away from her. But they will when they put two and two together, they're going to take her award.
I could tell you how. It's really simple. Is if she was not putting bags of midazolam, that's the drug we use to kill prisoners. That was the protocol. If she wasn't hanging bags of midazolam upon a positive indication as to COVID, then she's a hero, because that was the protocol. The first order of business was to give people with lung problems a lung tranquilizer. That was the hospital protocol, and we came to find there's a $500,000 bounty on every person in the hospital. They come out dead, the backside, on a stretcher, not moving. They get $500,000 and a 20% bonus if they use remdesivir.
Which was also made by Pfizer. A lot of people don't know.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you and I and Dr. Maria have to talk.
We have it all, sir. So, what I wanted to say is,
I don't know what you know. I know quite a bit about Pfizer, and so
I guarantee it. And we're about to launch a really big class action. I'd love to get your impression on it. But what I wanted to say is, you're on Clout Hub. My company acquired the majority interest in this because we wanted a censorship-free platform. You're on it. We won't tolerate it. And bring your shows over. We'll put them out. You can say whatever you want to say. We don't allow gambling. We don't allow porn. Other than that, intellectually honest and rigorous debate is what we're after. And by the way, it's in every language. So every one of your podcasts is available in every spoken language.
We're going to talk, and I've got to start getting ready for my radio show.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor Rudy. It was an absolute honor to hear you speak today, and I can't wait to see what comes of you and Todd's collaboration.
Well, it's honest, I can tell right away. God bless you.
God love.
Thank
God
you.
bless you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Remote meetings have quite a few benefits. Data security isn't one of them. Until now. Presenting CloudHub Meets, a safe, simple, and secure meeting platform that puts you in complete control of your data. With HIPAA-compliant paid and free plans, cheaper than Zoom, there are no apps to install, no saved data, and no big brother tracking your every move. Stop worrying if the services you use are using you, and sign up for CloudHub Meets today at cloudhubmeets.com.